Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Welcome in, folks. I am Clazzy Clare, he is Chudders, and this is episode 20. We have finally got to 20. How far we get, who knows? But anyway, it's the almost talking about the draft, the combine kind of free agency. So, Chudders, how are things with you?
Things are very good. I like your optimism of you don't know how far we're going with this. No, another positive week, I think, in the Patriots world. More steps in the right direction. I'm pretty pleased with how things have gone the past week, 2 weeks since we last met up. So what are your thoughts, Claire?
Well, firstly, yeah, my optimism is, well, it's not going to be long before you ditch me and sort on to, pastures new and stuff like that.
No, dive into a ditch, don't worry.
But yeah, I'm, to be honest, sorry to rewind a little bit, but I'm really shocked when I noticed it was episode 20. I was like, oh my God, already? Wow.
We've done very well.
Quite surprised.
I'm quite surprised. Positivity keeping you up from your negative of each week, and wonderful. No?
Okay. Anyway, salary cap. It depends where you go as to what number you get, because yeah, the numbers really vary. It's crazy. The salary cap itself, as I know you wanted to mention, was that for 2024 the salary cap has increased to 255.4 million. So yeah, there's been an increase in the cap. The available space, if you like, that the Patriots have, it depends who you look at. Miguel, good friend of the show, hopefully, friend of lots of the shows, on lots of the shows, even quoted by Patriots Unfiltered. So Pat's cap himself has got it at just shy of 87 million. So it's 86,857, blah, 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 lots of numbers. Now, I went to, I think it was Over the Cap. So another shocker, I went somewhere else just to sort of compare. And they've only got it at 78 million. So it's take it as you will. I trust Miguel, to be honest with you. To be fair.
I think, and I may be wrong, but I think what Miguel may be doing is working on the assumption that pretty much everyone has that JC Jackson is going to be cut, because that adds something like 13 million or something ridiculous to
14
the cap.
14 million cap hit.
So that he's working with those numbers. Now, to be fair to him, generally he doesn't do that. He doesn't work on assumptions.
No.
He works on detail. Either way, I suppose that the salary cap going up wasn't a surprise. The amount it has gone up is what has been a surprise to the whole league. I guess it's gone up by a lot more than everyone was expecting, which good and bad, I think. What's your take on it?
Well, I know the main reason you wanted to talk about this was because of how irritated I am at the release of Lawrence Guy. So the main reason you wanted to discuss this topic was just to basically put me in a bad mood, which is just so typical, folks. But we talked about it before. I think it might have been off air. Obviously, how unhappy I was. I didn't think that the release of Lawrence Guy was necessarily a good idea. Now, I think I even sort of argued it, for want of a better phrase, on Twitter, and I think I mentioned it to Evan and had a reply. And basically, yeah, people see the point of why let him. My point was, why let him go? Because you haven't got much sort of leadership in that locker room. The defense last year was sort of the pinnacle of the best part of the team. And for me, I didn't really want them to do much to it because I think it was so successful. And I think the likes of Lawrence Guy, especially when your locker room doesn't have the McCourties now and it's not going to have the Slater, element there either, I thought letting him go was a serious mistake. Now, I'm sure I will be proven wrong and that's perfectly fine. But I was unhappy about it and also thought that it wasn't good sense for the locker room. Now, it could be good business sense because of the money, but I know that's why you wanted to talk about it, because they've now got more availability. It's even more kind of like, well, why would you do it? Because he's not going to be on there for a significant number, just because of his position and obviously his age and stuff like that. So with regard to the salary cap going up, it does feel a little bit like, I know Paul likes to say the cap is crap and stuff like that, and it's just a lot of numbers to me. It feels very, not in much perspective. So I know that the Patriots are one of the top teams to have cap availability this season, which is good because they need to spend money because they've got a lot of positions to fill. I just feel that the release of Guy made a hole that they didn't need to make, removed a piece that was successful. He wasn't a bad defensive lineman. I know that he obviously, you're saying his performance has dropped off a little bit now as he's gotten older and stuff like that, and I fully appreciate that, but you've made a hole that you didn't need to make, that you've now got to fill, and you've lost that internal presence that I think right now, with all the new staff as well, the young staff, I know obviously AVP is experienced and seasoned and stuff like that, but you've gone very youthful when it comes to in the building in general, which is great because you move for the future, but it's taken away another solid piece, another core at the, the mortar in the wall sort of thing. And I just feel that the Lawrence Guy thing was a mistake. And it harpers back a little bit to when they let Shaq Mason go, and they basically made a hole that they didn't need to make, and then they had to fill it. It really feels like that is the mistake that they've made with him. Personally, lots of other factors, fully appreciate that. But I know that's why you really wanted to talk about the salary cap, because you wanted me to have my little rant about Lawrence Guy that I'd already had to. So how are you feeling about it then?
So on Lawrence Guy, I'm not a million miles away from you. I saw that it made good business sense financially before the salary cap, if you like, extra increase that came out. In as much as, like you say, his productivity had dropped off slightly. He is getting up there. I think he's 33, something like that now. And it was going to save you an extra 3 million. And you thought, okay, every penny counts. I know they're up there with the highest available, but every penny, or a dollar counts, I guess, in America. Every dollar counts. Okay, they're moving in that direction. When the salary increase came out so much higher than people expected, then you thought, and I think it's something like 3 million on the cap that you're saving. I might be wrong, but I think it's something like that. I too thought maybe you could have kept him around for one more year, like you say, for that continuity of leadership, particularly on defense, with Covington stepping up from being that O-line coach, that D-line coach to now defensive coordinator. You could have kept Guy in that defensive line room, who could have been, if you like, some form of leadership, a bit like Andrews is on the O-line, and the senior players are in those rooms. You could have kept it. I'm not fully against the move because Guy was good, but he wasn't great last year. I don't think it's a great loss from a playing perspective. Like you say, it's more the leadership, but we'll see how that plays out. What I really hope it means is they use that extra money now to extend Barmore early and make sure they lock up the center of that D-line for a long time to come. Because otherwise, this time next year, we could be looking at 2 new interior defensive linemen in that position. So, yeah, I hope they use that money wisely. In all, with the salary cap going up a lot more than expected, yes, that gives the Patriots even more money to splash when they've got quite a few holes to fill. What it does do, though, is it aids other teams who were maybe having to look at cap casualties that they now no longer need to. And maybe teams like Cincinnati, who can now afford to franchise tag Higgins and pay that if they have to, rather than, no, they couldn't afford to do that, to take that risk, to make that gamble, and it would have become available. And all the teams you're competing against for any of these elite players, you've now got more competition because more teams have got more money.
Yeah, it's then the roll-on impact, as you said, of who is now going to be available in that sort of premium position that the Patriots were really needing. I mean, I know before, a few weeks ago, when we started talking about the draft and stuff like that, for me, it was very much that the wide receiver needs to be addressed. But as I said to you, I was hoping it would be throw money at the situation and get someone really good. Not just throw money at the situation for somebody who is good, sort of thing. Don't do a John O. Smith again. Please don't do a John O. Smith again.
Claire.
No.
I saw you.
Look.
Ends.
No. Listen. I told you before he even started playing for the Patriots that it wasn't, and it wasn't. So when people start listening to me, maybe they'll, but anyway, not going to go there. Not going to do an I told you so thing, because I so want to. But anyway, yeah, don't do the John O. Smith thing. I was hoping that they'd throw money at it, because that's where I feel this particular draft, with what they need and who's there and what there is depth wise when it comes to sort of tackles and stuff like that. For me, wide receiver was like that's a money thing. The quarterback for me was a draft thing. I know everybody doesn't agree, so that's fine. But the quarterback and tackle thing for me was the draft thing, and the wide receiver was the money thing. And now it's looking like less and less and less that you're going to get that guy that you were even going to throw the available money on. So starting off with it, I've got to admit, I'm starting to be a little bit concerned, because there's two things already. They've released a guy and there's nobody available to buy.
Well, would you use a draft pick then to get someone like Higgins? If he does get franchise tag, he is available for trade. You are then going to need to pay him as well as as giving a draft pick. But would you be open to something like that, where you can still get that player that you wanted, but you do have to give something more up for him than you'd hoped?
See, I don't know, because they need so much. They need so many tackles and quarterback and tight end. Even other people are talking about this now, so I'm allowed to say it. Evans mentioned it. Lots of people have mentioned it, actually, that if you listen, other podcasts, that kind of thing. Even non-Patriots podcasts have said it as well. So they need tight endage, let's say.
Well, they do. They literally have
and as
no
soon as you
tight
start
ends.
Sorry?
They literally have no tight ends. It's not like they even need to upgrade at the position. They have no tight ends.
It's so sad for me.
Imagine if AVP's new offense was like 0 tight ends. This is a new
I might have to request a trade. You're gonna have to trade me somewhere then, I think. Trade me to the Lions or something. Sorry?
You for T. Higgins, do you think the Bengals would give that up?
I really don't. Here, Cincinnati, you can have her. No. I don't look good in orange. No. Don't do that.
So, I did hope that the interior of the defense is now locked up with Barmore long term. Possibly that is then something you're looking at in the draft. Probably not the first 2 days. But and that's exactly the sort of thing Bill used to do, wasn't it? And you get rid of Karras, get rid of Tooney, and create a problem on the O-line and work the guard in the first round. That's exactly the sort of thing he'd do when you didn't think there was a problem. He'd create one and then look to solve it, not properly.
See, can you see now why the release of Guy really stressed me out when that happened? Really unhappy. But anyway.
Yeah, I can see it. It stressed you out more than me, but I can see why it's now a hole.
Because you have no emotion, so why would it? It's just like, anyway, enough on the salary cap, because it's like loads of numbers, and there's way more stuff to talk about than that, really, because as we record this on Wednesday the 28th of February, the combine goes on.
The combine's going on, and obviously last night there was some wonderful interviews, I thought, that came out with Elliot Wolf, and it was a continual insight into his leadership, that it does appear he's the effective GM, or not be it in exact title. But
somebody asked him his title, I think. Something to do with VP of player operations or something. I'm pretty sure something along those lines was said. So before you go into your thing about it, I wanted to ask you the question. How confident are you in the draft now? With basically Wolf saying the final decision will be. It will be collaborative. I know that's the word of the season, but at the end, when it comes down to it, the decision is his. So how confident are you about that?
That's an interesting way of phrasing it. Confidence in him at the very top. He seems to have a very good resume. He's from a good pedigree with his father in the Hall of Fame. He's, as he spoke about yesterday, he's transferred over the method of sort of scouting and reporting on players that he had in Green Bay and overhauling the previous system from Bill, to try and simplify the way they are rating, ranking, sorting the board horizontally and vertically, to arrange these players and assess them. We will see how successful that is. The whole impression, the past few, for many years, but particularly the past couple of months, is that Bill did what Bill wanted to do, and now we're going to see. I mean, we have to say Elliot doing what Elliot wants to do, but there's this constant message coming out of Foxborough of collaboration, working together. It's going to be team decisions, it's going to be coaches, but ultimately it's going to be Elliot making that final choice.
I have a quote. There's a more of an open, less hard-ass type vibe in the building that we can move forward with, and that's directly quoted from Elliot Wolf yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't like a lot of what's been said. There's a lot of, well, there's a lot of shots being taken at Bill, which I don't think are necessary. There's a lot
Are
of.
they taking shots? Now, I agree with you. I'm very sorry. I do agree with you. But the one thing to look at is, are they taking shots, or are they just trying to reiterate it will be different? It will be different here.
Yeah, you can talk about going in a new direction and a new system you're implementing without having to fire at what's happened in the past and criticize what's happened in the past, which is what they have done on a few occasions now. You didn't need to say the hard aspect. You could say, oh yeah, no, we're implementing a system from Green Bay that I've used before. Works this way, works that way. It's a good way for assessing players. I think it works well with the scouts. You can say all that. You don't have to say, previously it was a hard ass coach. It was all on one person. He wasn't being collaborative. Like there's
they didn't
subtle
actually say that though.
I think they effectively have.
No, okay.
So I think it was last week, and I can't recall the quote, but it was along those lines of, no, this time we're going to be a lot more collaborative and listen to all the voices in the room. There's a comment along those lines that again was suggesting that no, this is one man doing it his way, which is strange because I don't think they're wrong. And it's a lot of the reasons why a lot of fans and media thought it was time to move on from Bill, because he was stuck in his ways and having too much power. Now, my view on it is he didn't have too much power. He was the head coach. He'd been head coach for 25 years and a proven track record. The problem was decisions he was making with that power were negative. Players he was picking, the lack of development, the lack of re-signing the players that we'd like to have kept around. It was the decisions he was making with that power that were the problem, not the fact that he had the power. Because essentially Elliot Wolf's now got the power if he's ultimately the one that's making the draft decisions on the day. One person is, and it's him now instead of Bill. So if we're looking at this in 3 years' time and we're not signed any draft picks, they've become a bust, then he'll be the man that's criticised and probably will lose his job because of poor drafting and poor player personnel decisions. So I don't like the snipes that have been taken. I do like the collaborative approach to an extent. I like that they will be listening to a lot of voices. I'm cautious about how it's going to play out in the long term when different players, I guess, whether they're on the Patriots or not on the Patriots, perform well. That if, say, the Patriots take a tackle with the second pick in the second round, essentially, and they pick one and he doesn't work out, he's a bust, he's injured, he's not performing at all, and there's a couple of other tackles on the board who go and perform really well at other teams, are you going to get murmurs that get released into the press of, well, Elliott made that pick, and actually Mayo would have preferred one of the other tackles who went and played really well? And if you get any of this in sniping, because everyone's voice is heard in the room, so everyone knows who everyone wants. But
the
there was
thing
one
with that
person making.
Sorry, the thing is that is obviously they've had it in the past because they took the likes of Cole Strange from what everybody seems to perceive is too early. If they take the top guy at that position at that number, you can't then moan about it because he's the guy that was going.
I mean, it depends, because that's why I used the example I did of the second round and what essentially would be maybe the 10th tackle off the board, something like that. And I'm fingering. But when you're then at a window of maybe 5 tackles, let's say, that are going to go in that second round, and you've chosen to go with one of them, but the other 4 are the good ones, if you like. They're the ones that play out really well in the league. The one you picked was the wrong one. That's when the sniping will come in. Now, for example, if we're looking at the 3rd pick in the draft, and let's say Williams goes 1, May goes 2, Daniels is, if you like, the last elite or blue chip, should I say, quarterback on the board, that's who they take. You can, whether he is successful or not, you can say, well, he was the only one left to them. If Williams goes first, MHJ goes second, and the Patriots have the choice of May or Daniels, and then they choose Daniels. Daniels doesn't work out, and May does work out wherever he ends up, then it's a fair criticism. That's when, again, it'll come out of, oh, well, you know, Elliott wanted Daniels, but Mayo wanted May, and that conflict will come out and play out in the press.
And you know how grumpy I'll be then as well.
There's probably a strong likelihood that if they are taking a quarterback at 3, they may not have that choice of those 3 blue chip ones. That you could argue they had the choice. They could have taken MHJ and looked to pick up McCarthy or Nix or Penix later on in the draft, maybe, and maybe they should have gone that route if one of those works out and Daniels doesn't, or whoever they take pick 3. But you also you get the point there. Like you say, you were taking the best available at that moment. So so how much criticism can you put on it? It's when you get later in the draft. Possibly an example of that is when they took N'Keal Harry at 28. They took him, maybe 30th. I can't remember exactly, but whatever number they took N'Keal Harry, and then a few picks later, Marquise Brown goes, Deebo Samuel goes, DK Metcalf goes, and everyone says, well, hang on, we missed out on the good ones a few weeks later, and we picked the dud. And that's when it could come out, well, hang on, I wanted DK Metcalf. I wanted Deebo Samuel. It was Elliott who wanted N'Keal Harry. That's when that sniping tends to happen, when there's more options of a similar sort of level of assessment. So, no, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But I'm excited. The words he said seem to strongly indicate that they're going to take a quarterback at 3. And I'm excited, whoever that is, whichever of those 3. I know you're most keen on May. I'm very happy if they ended up with May. I would like them to take a quarterback at 3, not trade down, not decide to go Joe Alt or MHJ. I'd be excited by. He's a very good player, but ultimately, I want to see a quarterback of that.
See, that's so funny. As we know, as everybody knows now, I want a quarterback. But you saying if they take MHJ, you'd be excited. If they took Joe Alt, I'd be excited. The dynamic, to be honest with you, if they're going to do that, I prefer the sort of the trade down and all that jazz.
Exactly what I say. Joe, brilliant tackle. I could see how he could vastly improve the Patriots O-line.
Yeah. I just meant on the face of it is if they take him out,
be pleased with that pick and picking up some first round picks for next year or whatever for that to feel worthwhile and a good route to be going to rebuild the team.
Yeah, of course. I just meant on the simple face of it of you'd be excited if they took MHJ, you'd be excited to see MHJ, and I'd be excited if they took Joe Alton. I'd be excited to see Joe Alt, which is just quite funny. Me and my O-line this.
So what are you looking out for at the combine, Claire?
Well, because it has now come out that MHJ, Williams, Daniels, and May won't be throwing, so there won't be much to sort of see when he. And I think this upcoming season, whatever you want to call it, this year, whatever, we've been really focused on. I know that we've said that we've been really focused on it because it feels like that's has to be, because they need a quarterback. So there's nothing to really watch when it comes to quarterbacks now, because I'm not really invested in the trade down necessarily, get Joe Alt as amazing I think he is, and pick up one of those later guys in the region of kind of McCarthy or Penix or that kind of thing. So to be honest with you, for me, the combine this year, and this is a real confession, this is, to be honest with you, is I'm really looking forward to seeing the tight ends.
No.
And the tackles. I'm going to watch the tackles because I know we need 1, 2, 3. So I'm looking forward to watching the O-line guys and the tight ends, even though I'm still mourning last year's draft tight end thing. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get over that, actually. I must admit. I think people should send cookies and stuff to help me get over it.
So, yeah, it's come out. May, Daniels and Williams aren't throwing. I do expect, and it's been reported, the Patriots, I think they were meant to have met Daniels last night, and possibly Williams and May very shortly. They'll be scheduled for interviews. I'm sure that'll be the first insight. It probably won't be the last interview they'll have with them. I'm sure Patriots will go into pro days. They may even host them at Foxborough as well.
Yeah.
On the quarterbacks, I'm intrigued to see how Penix's injury status looks at the back end of this as teams do their own medicals review of him. Be interested to see if I've not seen whether McCarthy's declared himself for the passing skills element of it, workout.
I thought he had. No, am I misinformed?
He may have. I've not followed it closely enough, to be honest. Okay. I'm not really interested in the Patriots taking him, but he seems to be moving up a lot of draft boards, getting a lot more visibility. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if he is trying to show off his wares, I guess, to try and make that move.
The last I heard, he was eking into the end of the first round.
I heard even higher than that.
Oh, wow.
That he could be going in the top 15. I've seen quite a few mock drafts where some of the quarterback needy teams near the top of the draft, like Minnesota, could decide to pick him up. But
wow,
we'll see. I personally don't buy into it enough. He's not a bad quarterback. He's just I don't think he's got it. He feels very of the sort of Brock Purdy mode or a game manager, which could fit some teams. It's certainly not what I want to see in New England. I'll be interested. My assumption would be that the Patriots will probably interview players like Neighbors and Thomas and Walker as well, receivers, who they're not necessarily or very likely at all to be picking up in the draft. But they'll want to speak to the elite players that were around the quarterbacks that they want to take.
Yeah.
So they'll want to get impressions of the quarterbacks from the receivers' sort of perspective.
Yeah.
Tackles, I'm looking forward to seeing their strength, their measurables, wingspan, see how sort of particularly that sort of second tier, because that is a spot I'm looking for with the second pick. So maybe it's sort of that range of maybe the top, or rather, if you like, 8 to 15 range, 8 to 20 range of.
And there's quite a few this year.
Should be available. So yeah, no, that'll be interesting to see how they all work out as well. And then I was going to ask you, which tight ends should we be looking out for, Claire? Are there any that are on your radar going in, or are you waiting to see how they perform, and then you'll tell us who your favourites are?
Well, I'm waiting to see how they'll perform, and then I'll tell you my favourites, because that may change. But the ones that I've got my eyes on initially from seeing a little bit of college, this the season just gone sort of thing, and the names that are like, they make it up on my board with post-it notes. Deuce's big board, but not. And I've got obviously Brock Bowers, Cade Stover of Ohio State, Luke Leahy. I haven't seen his name actually. Is he going to be there? Oh, he's not there. One guy that I'm really keeping my eye on is TCU's Jared Wiley.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know a lot about him. This is only kind of on the face of it. So, don't quote me that I think he's amazing. That's not at all. He's quite low down on the scores list when it comes to the information that the NFL draft have put out now. So, but he's interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing him because he's one that may be possibly a later developmental guy. So we will see. But I haven't seen half of these guys' measurables yet. So come back to me after I've done my combine.
Because he's 6'7", so he's a bit of a big beast.
Oh, is that why?
he had a better season last season when TCU had a better year going to the college playoffs. Performance dropped off a bit this year, but he's had some good games.
Obviously, Bowers is going to go really high, so I'm just looking at him. I'm just watching him just for the enjoyment of watching tight endage. Cade Stover, he's graded quite high, so not sure if he'll be too rich for the Patriots, but I'm interested to see him because I've seen him in a little bit of a college game once or twice. I know Ben Sinnott. I've heard good things about him, not seen him myself, so I can't quote on that yet, but I'm looking forward to watching for him. And as I said, Jared Wiley. Now, Luke Leahy isn't on here, so I don't think he has been invited. So, not sure about that. So, he might be somebody.
Declared or not, to be honest.
Say that again.
I don't know if he declared or not for the draft this year.
I missed that then. I thought he did.
I might be wrong. I might be wrong. I think he didn't in the end. Jatavian Sanders, that's another one, but again, he might be a bit too rich for the Patriots because the sort of grading at the moment is that he's likely to be a second round tight end. That's probably too high.
See, this is it. I'm trying to shield myself by not being too invested in the higher round guys now because it's just not going to happen. So I'm trying to look at the slightly lower down the list players.
Barner had a good season at Michigan, who obviously won the national title. He could be a good one. There was another one. Tanner McLaurin. I hope I've pronounced that right. Of Arizona, he's one that I'm intrigued to see. He had a steady season. He's one I'm interested.
He's not on the list. Oh no, he is. My apologies, I missed. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to that day. I'm very excited.
Excited? Are you staying up? I can't remember how late it's going to be for us.
It depends.
Working out,
this face needs sleep, so we're uncertain. But I will be catching up on it.
And then lastly, I guess the other element that will happen this week is teams speaking to each other, discussing moving around the board, what it would take to move up, to move down, what Patriots would look to receive in compensation if they are trading out of 3. Those conversations will happen, a lot of those. There's been a lot of discussion that potentially the Patriots could move around the board, maybe using the second round pick rather than the first if they are going quarterback at 3. Then potentially looking at moving 34 could be move they take. One slightly interesting factor could be Green Bay, who I think Green Bay have 2 second round picks that potentially you could package something with them and change 1 into 2 and maybe drop down a 5th or 6th or something like that to sort of make weight of that. And obviously Elliott Wolf having a good relationship with Green Bay, if they were up for that could be a possibility. It's not impossible, but I'm sure there will be moves that will happen on the days of the draft, and we'll see how that plays out. But no, it's exciting. It's a good week. There seems to be the most positive element of it all seems to be the strong indications that the Patriots will be taking a quarterback at 3, which will make me happy on draft night, should that be the case. So
we just have to let people know that we will be back next week following the combine. So we will be hitting you up with some of our combine nuggets, I think, towards the end of next week, because that show will actually mark another anniversary of mine, because I seem to have started in this industry all at the same time, it would seem. But yeah, on Thursday next week, we will bring you the next episode of Pat's Procrastination, the post-combine edition, shall we say. We'll just talk about all the people that we want that the Patriots won't take. But it will be 3 years to the day that I will have been accepted into the Pat's Propaganda fold. So I'll be marking 3 years at Pat's Propaganda next Thursday. So we're going to do a show really just for the sake of it, so that I can celebrate that day, because it's really fun. But yeah, so we can bring you some post combine stuff, and so that we can argue about who we think the Patriots should take but probably won't take anyway.
Look forward to it, Claire, celebrating with you.
So that is it for another edition of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Please do not forget to be rating, reviewing and subscribing, folks, so that you do not miss an episode. So as they say, as we always do, thank you very much from myself, Clazzy Clare and him, Chudders. So see you next week, folks. Tune in next time. And as always, go Pats.
LFG.